All right, let's dive into some seriously fascinating territory. We're talking UAP, unidentified anomalous phenomena, what we used to call UFOs.
Exactly. And what's really capturing everyone's attention is how NASA, the agency that put humans on the moon, is taking on this mystery.
And they're doing it with science, not just speculation. We're going deep into a NASA press briefing transcript and their NASA Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena Independent Study Team report to unpack all of this.
It's a pretty significant shift, moving away from those grainy photos and sensationalized stories towards a more data-driven investigation.
It seems like NASA is saying, okay, let's apply the same rigor we use for any other scientific puzzle.
Right, and they're not shying away from the big questions. The press briefing kicks off with NASA Administrator Bill Nelson, and he ties UAP research directly to their core mission, exploring the universe and searching for life beyond Earth.
And he didn't hold back on his own thoughts about extraterrestrial life, did he?
He did mention a NASA scientist who estimates the probability of life existing beyond Earth as at least 1 trillion to 1.
Trillion to 1. I mean, that's mind-blowing. It sounds like he's practically convinced.
He did express his personal belief that life likely exists out there. But the real news here is that NASA is taking concrete action. They've put together an independent study team focused on UAP, and that's a big deal.
Yeah, it shows a commitment to understanding this phenomenon scientifically, not just dismissing it. And then Dr. Nikki Fox, who heads NASA's Science Mission Directorate, steps in and really hammers home the importance of data.
Absolutely. She's like, show me the evidence. You can't draw scientific conclusions without high-quality data. I think that's something both skeptics and believers can appreciate.
Right, it levels the playing field. It's not about beliefs, it's about what the data reveals.
And speaking of data, Dr. Fox announces that the study team's report is publicly available on NASA's website. Total transparency. They're even appointing a dedicated NASA director of UAP research.
Wow, a whole new position. It sounds like they're building a long-term framework for investigating UAP, not just a quick one-off project.
This new director will be responsible for centralizing UAP research, improving communication between agencies, and even using AI and machine learning to analyze the data.
So they're bringing in the heavy hitters, the cutting-edge tech. But where does the actual science, the hands-on work of understanding UAP come in?
Well, Dr. Dan Evans, who's in charge of supporting the study, explains why getting a handle on UAP is so important. It's not just satisfying curiosity, it's about expanding our knowledge.
It's about understanding the world around us better.
Right, exactly. And it has implications for things like situational awareness and even airspace safety.
So if there are things zipping around our skies that we can't identify, we need to know what they are and if they pose any risks. It makes total sense from a national security perspective.
Absolutely. It's about exploring the unknown, something NASA has always been at the forefront of. And then we get to the question everyone is wondering about. Are we talking aliens here? Dr. David Spergel, the chair of the study team, addresses that head-on.
Okay, this is the moment of truth. What's the verdict? Are we alone or are we not?
Based on the data they've analyzed so far, the report doesn't find any evidence to suggest an extraterrestrial origin for UAP.
Oh man, so no confirmation of little green men just yet.
But there's a really important caveat. Dr. Spergel emphasizes that the data is limited. He's not ruling out the possibility, just saying they need more information before making any conclusions.
Okay, so the door's still open, just a crack.
Yeah.
What are they doing to gather more data, more evidence?
They're calling for a more systematic way to collect data, using calibrated instruments, multiple measurements, detailed metadata, the works. They even suggest the public can help through things like smartphone apps that collect information.
Crowdsourcing UAP data. That's kind of cool, getting people involved.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, there's always been a lot of skepticism around UFOs, now UAP. How does NASA tackle that?
They face it head-on in the Q&A session after the briefing. They acknowledge the stigma that comes with reporting UAP sightings. They're encouraging pilots, citizens, anyone who sees something unusual to report it.
So they're saying we can't study this properly if people are afraid to speak up.
Precisely. They're trying to shift the conversation away from sensationalism and toward science. Bill Nelson himself addresses the alien question directly. He assures everyone that NASA will be transparent. If they find anything that points to non-human intelligence, they'll share it with the public.
Okay, that's the statement I think everyone can get behind. Skeptic or believer, transparency is key. But we've all seen those blurry videos and heard those far-out claims. How do they handle that kind of sensationalized stuff?
By analyzing it scientifically, of course. One example they discuss is the Go Fast video, which a lot of people point to as credible evidence. The panel explains that the object's apparent speed in the video could be because of the movement of the sensor, not the object itself.
Ah, so perspective matters, even in the world of UAP.
Absolutely. And to illustrate this, they use a great analogy. They say, understanding normal phenomena is critical to identifying anomalies. It's like finding a needle in a haystack. You have to know what hay looks like before you can spot the needle.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so let's talk about the report itself. What are the biggest takeaways?
Well, the most significant takeaway is that the lack of high-quality standardized data is a huge obstacle to understanding UAP.
That's not surprising, right?
Right.
If we want to study something scientifically, we need good data.
Absolutely. And to tackle this, the report highlights a few key points. First, they stress the need for meticulous data collection, using calibrated instruments and gathering detailed metadata. Second, they want to partner with commercial remote sensing companies and even citizen scientists.
So they're bringing in expertise from different areas.
And third, they want to leverage AI and machine learning, but only with well-defined data.
So it seems like they've got a plan.
And they're not starting from scratch. They're suggesting using resources NASA already has, like their Earth-observing satellites, their AI capabilities, and the Aviation Safety Reporting System, which collects safety data from pilots.
So a practical and methodical approach. It's not just X-Files and conspiracy theories, it's science, data, and a willingness to explore the unknown.
Exactly. And whether UAP turn out to be something extraordinary or not, the potential for discovery is huge. NASA, with their focus on science and transparency, is in a unique position to lead the way. It's refreshing, isn't it? This whole approach that NASA is taking towards UAP. It's all about process, not jumping to conclusions.
Yeah, it's like they're saying, hold on, let's get the hard data first, and then we'll see where it leads.
Exactly. And I think that's a really important message, whether you're skeptical or you're a believer. For the skeptics, it's reassuring. It means NASA isn't going off on wild goose chases.
Right, they're not chasing every blurry photo or outlandish story.
And for those who believe there's something truly extraordinary out there, well, this kind of scientific investigation might be the way to finally uncover it.
Okay, I like that. Let the data speak for itself. But let's say, hypothetically, that NASA does find solid evidence that some UAP are, not from around here. What then? What happens next?
That's the big question, isn't it? Honestly, the report doesn't really dive into those hypothetical scenarios too much. But there are some hints about the potential implications.
Ooh, hints. Come on, spill the beans.
Well, first off, confirming the existence of non-human technology would be a monumental shift. It would change everything about how we understand our place in the universe.
It'd be like, I don't know, like realizing the Earth isn't the center of the universe, like that Copernican revolution you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. It would challenge our scientific models, our philosophical and religious beliefs, everything we thought we knew about reality.
Wow, that's a lot to process.
Yeah.
It's like the ground would shift beneath our feet and we'd have to figure out how to stand up again.
And the effects wouldn't just be limited to scientists and philosophers. Think about governments, space exploration programs, our understanding of history.
And our everyday lives. It would be huge EE. I mean, it would be the biggest news story ever.
It's almost impossible to grasp how much things would change. But I think it's crucial to acknowledge both the potential benefits and the potential risks.
Okay, let's start with the positives. What are some of the good things that might come from contact with another civilization?
Well, imagine the technological advances we could make if we could study their technology. I mean, it could revolutionize energy, transportation, medicine, you name it.
Like in those sci-fi movies where they figure out alien tech and suddenly we're zipping around the galaxy.
Exactly. And it's not just about material stuff either. Think about the potential for learning and cultural exchange. Imagine sharing ideas, art, different perspectives.
It'd be a global renaissance, but on a whole new level.
Right. But along with all this potential comes enormous responsibility. We would have to approach this contact very carefully.
Yeah, I can see that. We don't exactly have the best track record when it comes to meeting new cultures, even here on Earth.
Right. We've made a lot of mistakes. So we'd need to learn from those mistakes. We'd have to approach any contact with humility and respect and a willingness to listen and learn.
We wouldn't want to repeat the mistakes of, colonialism or exploitation.
Exactly. And we'd have to think very carefully about what we share with them and what we keep to ourselves.
Right, like, do we give them access to our nuclear weapons?
Mm-hmm.
Or, I don't know, our best music? our deepest fears and hopes?
These are all tough questions we'd need to answer as a species.
It's almost too much to think about. The potential is so exciting, but the risks are also pretty scary.
It's a tough balance, and ultimately I think the most important thing is to be cautious and really think about the potential consequences, both good and bad.
I agree. This kind of contact could change the course of history, and not always in ways we expect.
We tend to project our own hopes and fears onto the unknown, but the reality of extraterrestrial life might be far more complex than anything we can imagine.
It might make us rethink our entire understanding of intelligence, of consciousness, even of what life itself really is.
And that's both thrilling and terrifying.
It really is. It's like we're standing on the edge of a cliff, looking out into a vast, uncharted territory. There's so much wonder and possibility, but also a lot of danger.
It's a choice humanity might have to make sooner than we think. A choice to either step into that unknown or stay safely behind in the familiar.
And this is where NASA's work comes in. By focusing on science and data, they're helping us lay the groundwork for a more informed and responsible approach to this whole incredible possibility.
Exactly. And whether or not we find definitive proof of alien life, the process of searching, of exploring the unknown, that's a core part of being human.
And as we move into the last part of this deep dive, let's keep those big questions in mind.
Absolutely. Let's consider the possibilities, both good and bad, of discovering extraterrestrial technology.
And the ethical questions surrounding contact with another civilization.
And how we, as a species, might navigate this uncharted territory.
Because the future of humanity might very well depend on it.
I would have been on top of the charts, but it's politics. You do some gimmick shit and post, you get a lot of clicks. Drop some real shit and they probably won't acknowledge it.